Hello guys, and welcome back to another tutorial. If you're new here, welcome to the channel, and if you're a returning subscriber, welcome back. So on today's video, we're going to learn how to make this vest. If that sounds like something you're interested in learning, then keep on watching and let us get right into it. So guys, to start off, we've gone ahead to rule out the lines, and as you can see on this part, I came out here by 1 inch for our buttonholes. So this is our bust point line, our under bust, our waist line, and I've gone ahead to rule them out, as you can see already. Now we're starting off with our shoulder measurements. So I went ahead to mark my shoulder measurement divided by 2, and then I came down by 1 inch, and now I'm just marking my armhole depth, and then we're just going to go ahead to rule this out to create our armhole. Now on this point here, I'm going to mark my bust measurement divided by 4, and then I'm going to divide what I have here into 2 to get the midpoint for creating the armhole, because I do not have my curve. If you have your curve ruler, you want to go ahead to skip this step and just use your curve to create your armhole. But I'm just going to go ahead now to create dotted lines first to create the armhole, as you see me doing right now. Next, we want to go ahead to mark our neckline depth. So I'm going to go ahead to mark 3.75. So when we're done sewing, what we have there is going to be 4 inches for the width. Then for the depth, we're going to come down by 3 inches. And then I'm going to go ahead to just curve that out with your curved ruler. I do not have mine, so I'm doing this the old-fashioned way. I'm going to straighten the lines out, and then after doing so, I'm going to create a curve. Next, we want to move on to the shoulder area here. We want to go ahead to come down and just rule this all the way down, following that mark we made. Now we want to go ahead to mark our nipple to nipple measurement here on this point. So I'm marking my nipple to nipple measurements divided by 2. For me, that is 4 inches. And then I'm going to rule this out so I can create our darts. So after rolling this out, we want to go ahead to come on this point. We want to take out 1/2 inch on both sides for our dart, and then we want to go ahead to curve this out to create the dart. Next, on our shoulder area, we want to go ahead to place our tape there, and whatever we have, we want to divide that into 2. So after dividing this into 2, I'm going to go ahead to mark out the midpoint. So whatever we have at the midpoint, we're going to mark it out, and then from that point, we want to go ahead to rule our line down to our nipple to nipple point here, where we've already created our that's the way you see me doing right now. So after doing so, I'm going to go ahead now to take out 1/2 inch on both sides for our dart as well, and then we're going to rule this all the way down the way you see me doing right now. So we've gone ahead to take out 1 inch dart at the shoulder area. So we want to go ahead now to replace that 1 inch we took. I'm going to go ahead to replace it back on this point, as you see me doing right now, and then we're going to retrace the armhole area. Now we want to go ahead to start adding in our body measurements divided by 4. So you can see where I placed the tape to start adding in the measurements. Now I'm adding in the under bust, the waist, and then our hip measurement divided by 4 at the bottom part here. So after doing so, we want to go ahead to return that 1 inch that we took out at that point. I've gone ahead now to return the dart, and then we're just going to go ahead to rule this to meet each other. Now to create the opening at the bottom, what I'm going to do is on this point here, I'm going to place my tape, and I'm going to mark 3 inches. I'm coming in by 3 inches, and I'm marking this out. And then on my waistline area, you want to go ahead to come down by 1 inch. And after doing so, I'm going to go ahead to just rule the lines to meet each other to create that opening. So you just want to go ahead to rule this straight up, I went ahead to just create a curve, but I later corrected that and I just ruled this straight up. You do not need to curve this out on the zipper area the way I did here. You just want to go ahead to curve this straight up. So this is what we have now. Now we want to go ahead to just extend this point here the way you see me doing right now. Next, we want to use our tape now and place along our armhole, and whatever we have there, we're going to divide that into two to get the midpoint of our armhole. So we're going ahead to mark out the midpoint of our armhole. We want to go ahead to roll this down to our nipple to nipple line here. So I'm just going to create dotted lines and then just curve this from this point all the way down to the nipple to nipple area. So this is what we have. Now we want to go ahead to cut this out of the pattern paper so we can close up the shoulder dart. Now to close up the shoulder dart, we're going to go ahead to slit open this armhole area, and we're going to slit it open all the way to this nipple to nipple point. So we're going ahead to do that now. Now I'm going to close up this dart we have here. So we're going to close up the dart so we transfer the dart we have here to the armhole area. After closing up the dart, I'm just retracing the shoulder just so what we have at the shoulder point is equal. Now on the armhole area, we're going to go in by 1 inch. You want to go ahead to do that and curve it back out just so your measurement at the armhole area is complete when you're done joining both pieces together. So you want to make sure you're adding this, or else you won't have equal measurements at the armhole area when you're done joining the both pieces together. So this is what we have. Now I'm just going to rule this straight down from the dart leg, and then we're going to go ahead to cut out all the pieces for the front. So guys, these are the pattern pieces for the front. We want to go ahead to set this aside and then work on the back piece. So for the back piece, I have my lines rolled out, and then we're coming down by 1 inch for the depth of the neckline. So the difference for the between the front and the back is the back we're coming down by 1 inch, and then we're going to curve this out. If you have your curved ruler, you want to go ahead to skip this step. Also, the back is going to be cut on fold because we are going to have buttons at the front. Now I'm just doing the same thing I did for the front piece to create the armhole, and like I said, if you have your curved ruler, you want to go ahead to skip this step. Next, we want to go ahead to create a dart for the back, and for that I'm going to mark my nipple to nipple measurements divided by 2, and then we're going to rule out a straight line at this point. After rolling out the straight line, we want to go ahead to take out 1/2 inch on both sides, and then we're going to go ahead to rule this out. Now we're going to start adding in our body measurements divided by 4, and then we're going to rule everything together. So after adding my waist measurements, I return the 1 inch that we took, and then we're going to add the hip measurements divided by 4, and we're going to rule everything together. Now for the shoulder area, we want to also get the midpoint of the shoulder the way we did for the front, and then we want to mark it out. After doing so, we want to go ahead to roll out a straight line down to our nipple to nipple line we made, and then this is what you would have after doing so. I'm not going to use the armhole dart method for the back. I'm just going to leave the back as it is like this. So we're going to go ahead now to just cut out the back pattern and then start cutting this on our fabric. So this part here is going to be on fold. I just want to let you know, and that is why I curved it out like this, so you know that part is on fold. Now this is the fabric we're going to work with for this tutorial, and this is crepe. We're going to use this, and now we're going to start cutting. So I have this one here on fold, as you can see, and I just placed them down. This is the back piece. I'm just placing something on top so the pattern doesn't move while I cut. So I'm going to add 1/2 inch seam allowance at the bottom, at the top, and at the side as well. And then for the second piece, we're also going to do the same thing. The only difference is we're going to have 1 inch joining allowance at the side. Now for the front piece, like I explained earlier, you want to go ahead to make this straight up and not curved. So I'm going to go ahead to trim this out like this, and then we're going to go ahead to just start cutting out our fabric. So I'm going to cut this, and then we're going to add 1/2 inch seam allowance at the shoulder area, at the bottom, at the sides. Then for the second piece, we're going to have 1 inch joining allowance at the sides. After cutting this out, I'm just creating notches so I know where the bust area is going to sit and the under bust area as well. And I'm going to do the same thing on the opposite side as well. So guys, this is the front piece, and we're going to need to cut the lining piece as well. I'm going to take out this piece so we can start joining the sides together. So now we just want to place them right sides facing each other, and then you want to follow the notches we created just so you are making sure that everything is precise. So I'm just placing them down together, and then I'm just going to make sure everything is aligning properly, and then I'm going to pin this together for us to sew. Now we're going to go ahead to stitch this all the way down by 1/2 inch, and then we're doing the same thing for the opposite side as well as the lining piece. Now for the back piece, we're just going to place them right sides facing each other. This particular fabric is going to be really difficult for you to figure out which part is the right side and which part is the wrong side. So you want to make sure you take note and then mark it out if possible so you do not get confused. So I'm going to pin them together right sides facing each other so we can sew. After pinning this down, we want to go ahead to just stitch the sides down by 1/2 inch. So after doing that, we're also going to do the same thing for the opposite side. We've already gone ahead to pin down the opposite side as well. So we're just going to stitch it down and then do the same thing for the lining piece. So I'm going to go ahead now to do that. So I'm going ahead now to iron open the seams for all the fabric piece. As you can see, I also did the same thing for the lining piece. Now we just want to start joining this together. So I'm starting off by placing them right sides facing each other, and we want to go ahead to join this by the shoulders. So I'm just going to place them down, making sure everything is aligned properly, and we're going to pin the shoulders together. So after pinning this down, we want to go ahead to leave the shoulders as it is. We're not going to join the shoulders. We're just going to go ahead to join the sides. So we're going to align the sides like this together, and we're also going to pin it down before we go ahead to sew. Now we just want to use our body measurements divided by 2 and then mark it out and just stitch the sides. We're also going to do the same thing for the lining pieces. So after doing so, this is what we have. You can see what we have on the inner part. I went ahead to just iron out the side, and this is what we have. And this is the lining piece. I've also gone ahead to do the same thing I did for the main fabric piece to the lining piece. Now we want to go ahead to attach our lining piece and our main fabric piece together. So to do this, I'm just opening up the main fabric piece like this, and then we're going to place the lining piece on top of the main fabric piece, right sides facing each other. So you can see that we're leaving the right sides inside, and we're just going to have the wrong sides facing outwards, and then the right sides of our fabric are facing each other on the inner part. Now we want to go ahead to align the bottom parts together so all the joinings are aligning properly together. So you can see what I'm doing. I'm just aligning them together, and I'm going to pin this all the way across so we can sew. Now after pinning this down, we want to go ahead to stitch this down all the way across. And remember, your lining is ½ inch shorter than your main fabric piece. So we're going to go ahead to stitch it down and then top stitch on the lining part of the fabric. So this is what we have after doing so. I've gone ahead to top stitch on the lining part of the fabric, as you can see. Now we want to go ahead to close up everything, just so we stitch the lining piece and the main fabric piece together at the top part as well as the armhole area. Now at this point, what I'm trying to do is I'm just pinning my neckline areas together. So I'm pinning the main fabric piece and the lining piece together at the neckline area all the way down to where we have our button loop area. So I'm just going to pin this across so we can have them laying down equally for us to sew. So after pinning this down, we want to go ahead to stitch this around the sides. So we're going to go ahead to stitch this all the way from this point. We're going to take it all the way up and then stitch along the sides. And after which you want to stitch the back necklines together, and then you're also going to stitch the front neckline together and take it all the way down. You want to make sure you take out the pins because we went ahead to pin the shoulders together before we went ahead to join them. So after sewing, this is what we have. I went ahead to create notches around the sides, but you can see that our armhole area and our shoulder is not yet sewn. So in order for us to join the shoulders together and close up the armhole, we're going to go ahead to flip this over from this point and pass it over to the right side. So after passing this over to the right side, that is when we're going to join our shoulders together and then close the armhole area, or else you're going to be confused and it's not going to come out well. So you want to take note of that. After passing this over to the right side, this is what we have. Now we want to go ahead to join the shoulders as well as close up the armhole. So we're going to start off by closing the armhole opening, which is this part here. So to do this, I'm going to hold the back piece. This is the back piece, and then this is the front piece. So for the back piece, we're going to flip this over to the wrong side like this, as you can see. And then we're just going to hold everything together, and then we're going to start stitching that part. We're going to stitch this, flipping it over to the wrong side and then stitching it all the way to the very end to just close up the armhole opening. So you want to take your time with this. You can see that I went ahead to speed this up so you can see this, but I'm just basically flipping this over to the wrong side as I go, and I'm going to continue stitching this on the wrong side of the fabric all the way to the very end of our armhole opening. So after stitching that down, we're done with this. Now we want to go ahead to drag this back out to the right side. So you can see that I'm just dragging this out to the right side, and then this is what we have for the opening. You can see what we have. You want to go ahead to just iron everything down. Now to join the shoulders together, what we want to do is we want to pass this over from that opening we made. So what we're going to do is I'm going to take the front piece. This is the front piece. We're going to take the shoulder inside of the back piece. So you can see what I'm doing. I'm just going to insert the front shoulder inside of the back piece. So you can see that I'm inserting this in, and then we're going to take it out of that opening we created. So we're going to take it out of that opening and then bring it out. So this is it. After bringing it out, we want to go ahead to align them properly so they are both equal and they are staying at the right position. So after aligning this like so, we want to go ahead to just sew them together by 1/2 inch, the way you would normally join your shoulders. So we're going to stitch this down by 1/2 inch and then trim out the excess. So we're trimming off the excesses so that when you're flipping this over to the right side, it doesn't bulge. So you want to take note of that. Now after doing so, we want to go ahead to flip this back out of that opening and then bring it out like this. You can see what we have after doing so. You can see that all the seams are inside and they are looking neat. Now we just want to go ahead to iron everything down so everything is looking neat. And then we're going to fix in our button as well as our button openings. So guys, after adding in our cover buttons and then creating our buttonhole, this is the final result. I hope you enjoyed watching this video, and if you found it helpful, do not forget to give it a thumbs up. And if you enjoy watching videos like this, you're also going to love this one up here, so you can go check that out, and I will see you guys on the next one. Bye guys.